right, welcome to the Way to a Great Marriage Cast. Tonight we are in my sister's book again, My Life Story by Sandra Kay, Baugh, Carlson. And tonight we are in the section. What
You didn't tell them who we were.
I'm Tony. This is LaRonda.
Hey!
That was Heather's idea.
What was Heather's idea?
That we introduce ourselves and tell the people who we are.
Yeah, well, I think that was a good idea.
We are in on the question: what major historic events do you remember happening during your childhood? Uh, because I was only 7 years old when President Kennedy was assassinated, the thing that stands out in my memory is the constant television coverage. He set the goal of landing on the moon, which initiated a technological race that was a significant event in my childhood. I was always interested in the space program and I kept track of its proliferation. I kept a scrapbook of important space missions and especially the moon landing. Give me a second so I can pull up my live stream. So if we have any comments.
I thought we had one.
Usually I do this whenever Lauranda's singing, but she doesn't feel like singing tonight, so we are.
Sorry.
I'm having to do this while we talk, and so. Yes, we do this while we talk.
He's listening
now,
to
load the chat. Okay, there you go. Hey, sissy. Yeah, that's why I pulled it up so I could see that you were on. About a year before, someone coerced mom into buying tickets with a raffle. She won a small portable television and gave it to me.
Oh.
Yes. Okay. The black and white screen was only about 9 inches.
Itty bitty.
It wasn't portable because it had to be hooked to an antenna and plugged into an electrical socket. We put it on top of the upright piano in my room. That enabled me to watch some of my favorite after-school programs while Tony watched Sesame Street on the television in the living room. I usually stood in front of the piano to see the small screen or sat on the piano bench to watch. Yeah, I remember she'd come in and I would be watching Sesame Street or Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
I love like, Mr. Rogers.
Oh, man.
Oh.
I was 13 years old in 1969, the night of the moon landing. I was eager to watch, and even though it was past the family's bedtime, my parents permitted me to watch alone in my bedroom on my small television. Sorry, you still aren't feeling well, Loranda. I stood in front of the television for hours after the lunar module Eagle landed on the moon in anticipation of that first step onto the moon's surface. Mom and Dad caught my excitement and assembled in my room for the last few minutes. We were delighted that history was being made, but also nervous about what might happen. Finally, at 10:56 p.m., Neil Armstrong stretched his left foot on the moon's surface. We cheered as he and Buzz. I get emotional whenever we sing the Star Spangled Banner and stand with our looking. I have so much pride.
That's okay.
So much awe in what God has done in America.
Yep.
We cheered as he and Buzz Aldrin planted the U.S. flag, walked, skipped, and hopped around. Those Apollo missions, especially the Apollo 11 moon landing, sparked my interest in space travel, which has continued through my lifetime. And here's a picture of the television set. And that is, I think it's Gail. Is that Gail Stevens? I think that's helping you fold clothes in your bedroom. I learned to play on that upright piano too, and sitting on that bench. I don't know why. I guess because everybody had been so mean to the flag and so dispatriotic. That it wells me up with emotion when I see patriotism.
We love our USA, don't we?
Yeah. Oh, okay. So, what was the most daring, unusual thing you ever did? Yes, Gail Stevens. I'm opening a birthday present for my 15th birthday. Oh, it looks like you're folding clothes.
She's opening a birthday present. Oh, you're so cute, Sissy.
People are always surprised when I tell them I have a private pilot's license.
Yeah.
That pilot's license fulfilled a dream, and I'm proud of that accomplishment. Yeah, you could probably win on those game show, those, where you list three things. One's supposed to be false about you, and they're supposed to guess which one's false.
Yeah, Sissy would never be considered a pilot. I might could see Brian being a pilot, but Sissy.
For years, Brian faithfully drove to Chino Valley and back 3 or 4 times a month so Holly could spend time with us in Kingman. I often accompanied him on those trips. Holly eventually got tired of the drive and we began to send her on a commercial airline. When the commercial airline went bankrupt,
Oh no.
Brian suggested he become a pilot to fly her himself. The 2.5 hour one-way drive trip could be cut to about an hour in a small plane. I told him he could get his pilot's license if I could do it too because I was the one who had always wanted to fly. We had heard that the most challenging part of the process was passing the written exam. So we enrolled in a class at Mojave Community College to learn how to fly. The course would prepare us for the written exam. We only got on a plane once. We had taken the 1 semester class and passed the FAA written test with flying colors. I remember that first flight with our instructor, Michael Stouffer, a DPS officer. He went up in a Cessna 192 with Michael and Brian in the front, and I was sitting in the back. It was the first time I had ridden in a plane that small. I remember thinking, what have I got myself into?
Yeah.
We began instruction in a rented two-seated Cessna 150. I don't know why that was a tongue twister. The Kingdom Airport is a great place to learn to fly. The terrain is flat and the runways are long and wide because it was used during World War II for B-52 bomber training.
Wow.
I wonder if that's where they trained to bomb Tokyo from an air flight carrier.
Who knows?
The Dooley bombers. He arrived at the airport at 5 a.m. before the notorious Kingman wind picked up and took turns flying with Michael. Under the circumstances, we decided it would be more cost effective to purchase a plane. So Michael flew us to examine and purchase a 1959 Cessna 182 that would seat four. We continued our training in that 182, whose call signs were N72969E, and Holly named Sunkissed.
I love it.
At that time, it was common to fly planes of that age, as few new planes were in production, and those new planes were prohibitively cost expensive. Brian was in a hurry to get the license so Holly could fly with us.
I bet.
So he accelerated his program, completed his solo flight first, and got his fixed wing VFR pilot's license before me. I didn't have my license when we flew the plane to Kentucky, or our biggest adventure ever.
Wow, that would be. Wow.
I think it was such a big adventure they didn't do it twice. Brian,
That's a long way to fly.
Brian piloted the plane and I acted as navigator. This experience was invaluable when I took my practical exam or check ride. Holly was there with us every step of the way. She was at the airport when we did our first solo flight and beamed with pride
Yay, Holly.
when they cut the back out of the t-shirt we were wearing per tradition. They hung the back of the t-shirt with my name on it on the wall in the airport training office. I'll never forget the feeling when I took my first solo flight and realized I had to land the plane all by myself. Takeoff is easy, landing not so much.
Yeah.
Brian had to fly to Prescott for his check ride flight test, but I could fly into the closer Laughlin Airport and take the test from an instructor there. On the navigation portion of the test, the instructor asked me to plan a flight to Phoenix, Sky Harbor Airport, file a flight plan, and begin the flight. I plotted the route on the map. It was before GPS, called in the flight plan, and headed to the airport. Because of the previous trip to Kentucky, I could read the terminal like the back of my hand.
Wow.
With me at the console, we headed toward Phoenix, and after about 15 minutes, he asked me to point on the map our current location. We were in the middle of nowhere, and the only landmark below was an Arroyo dry wash. Naturally, I had been keeping an eye on the map and the terrain and immediately pointed to the exact spot Arroyo on the map. I could tell he was impressed, and the remainder of the test went smoothly. Once Brian got his license, Holly was with us on almost every flight. Her help was invaluable as her long-distance vision was better than ours. And when we approached an airport, she could spot the other planes before we could see them. And the tower would tell us to follow the Piper on downwind, and Holly would point and say, "There it is." Apart from flying back and forth to Prescott, a controlled airport, to transport Holly, we flew on a few excursions. One was with our friend Mary Lou Pittajane to Clovis, California, to visit our former pastor Bill Feeser.
Oh, that's awesome.
And his family. Once, when we had planned to fly to Glendale Airport in Phoenix to spend time with Brian's parents, Brian had his first kidney stone and couldn't go. Oh. He insisted we go without him, so Holly and I flew by ourselves from Kingman to Glendale.
Wow.
and packed away our flight gear along with our memories. That was a time of my life that was
Yes.
full of adventure, as in every other aspect of our marriage, as Pilot Brian and I had a good partnership. Our strengths compensated for each other's weaknesses, as I always said when we worked together in the cockpit. Between the two of us, we make one good pilot. And here is Sissy in front of her plane.
That's awesome.
Sun kiss.
That's awesome, Sissy.
All right. I want to give you guys plenty of time to look at the pictures.
Yeah. I love that one, Sissy.
Next question is, how did you meet your husband? When I was 28 years old, I moved to Kingman, Arizona, and worked as the public relations director at the Kingman Regional Hospital. Finding a church home was difficult. The Baptist church I tried didn't seem to fit. There were a couple of years that I didn't go to church. In the fall of 1986, Pastor Bill Fieser was visiting with the two of us women who shared an office at the hospital as we commiserated about the fact there were no eligible men to date in Kingman. Pastor Bill insisted he knew of several, one being Dr. Brian Carlson. He invited us to his church, Grace Lutheran Church, because I was interested in finding a church home. I accepted his invitation. Meanwhile, Brian, a faithful member of Grace Lutheran Church, was taking piano lessons from Jackie Fieser, the Pastor Bill's wife. During one of his lessons, she and Pastor Bill inquired if he would be interested in seeking a date with me. Brian knew who I was because I often attended his Rotary Club meetings to lecture about different hospital services. They told him I was planning to be in church on Sunday. I was out to dinner that Saturday night with an acquaintance, Sherry. She told me she planned to attend church the following day at Grace. We had also visited a friend named Jenny who had recently moved to town to be a counselor at Mojave Mental Health. We agreed to all go together. After church, Brian came up to our group and started a conversation. Sherry invited him to meet us at Bob's Big Boy for lunch.
I love Bob's Big Boy.
And on the way there, she informed me that she had matchmaking plans to get Brian and Jenny together on a date. She told me hands off. When we arrived at the restaurant, Sherry manipulated the seating arrangements in our booth so that she sat next to Brian. Jenny was across from Brian, and I was the furthest away from Brian. When the waitress came to take our order, she and Jenny got up from the booth to get their food from the buffet. Brian and I ordered off the menu, so we sat in the booth and got acquainted while they were gone. That evening, I was pleased when Brian called and asked me out for not only one date, but dates for two different events. And this is their wedding picture. I think it's in 1986, if I remember correctly. I guess that's Bill Feast.
Oh, yeah.
The pastor.
They got them together.
Okay. Do you have any children? Is the next question. Cliffhanger.
Oh, we're gonna wait till tomorrow night for that.
No, I was just thinking. Holly knew the answer to this question, but she asked it anyway to see what she would say. I guess when I married Brian, his daughter Holly was 5 years old. She was cute, smart, and independent with a mind of her own. Holly lived most of the time with her mother, stepfather, little brother, and eventually a little sister in a community that was a 5 hour round trip drive from our home. We had the usual bi monthly visitation for more extended visitation during the summer. The three of us spent a lot of time doing things together as family. We played pretend games such as house and school board games and went to the park. We went on family vacations. She attended church with us and was involved in youth activities there. Yes, Pastor Bill Feeser. I never had a baby of my own, and I didn't have much experience with small children. However, I felt an overwhelming responsibility toward this little girl who looked up to me with adoring eyes. I remember that look. She looked up at me like that too. I didn't know what to do. I asked for advice from friends, coworkers, and even acquaintances who was a psychiatrist. Their advice to me was just love her. Although good advice, just love her, didn't equip me with any specific tools I could use. I suppose people with children of their own are in the same boat.
Yeah.
But I always thought it might be easier to start from scratch than with a 5-year-old who I suspected was smarter than I was. I work uh, I work on it through my prayers when I don't know what to do. Whenever a relationship has been a struggle for me, I have always found the best path to relief is to pray for that person.
Yes.
I had certainly been praying for Holly, but I started praying more specifically. In my prayers, I asked God to help me love Holly as if she were my own daughter.
Yep.
I researched passages about love in the Bible. The best, the most famous in 1 Corinthians 13 says, love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not honor itself, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always preserves. This is the type of love I want to have for Holly. When we spend time together, I would ask myself, am I being patient and kind? Am I thinking only of myself? Am I too angered? Am I protecting her as a mother? In my prayer journal, I made a list of Holly's attributes, and every day I prayed over them, thanking the Lord for Holly and her attributes. It wasn't long before Holly became the daughter of my heart. When did she first start to call me mom? We had been a family for 3 years when we took a trip from our home in Arizona to Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida. The long plane ride and a week at the attractions in Florida gave us plenty of time to bond. She started out kidding me by calling me Mamoose. She would say Mamoose and giggle. Before the week was over, she uh, has shorted to mom. I have always felt honored that Holly bestowed on me that endearment. Being a mom, dad, or grandparent is a title that is earned. I wear my title of mom as a badge of honor and one of the greatest blessings God has given me.
Me too.
I am grateful to Holly's mother, Cindy, because she always encouraged our relationship. Over the years, Holly and I have been there for each other through difficult times and good times. I felt blessed that she asked me to help her when all three of her children were born. And I feel incredibly blessed to be their Mimi.
She said something.
She did. Holly didn't actually pick out the questions. They were recommended by the publishing company of the book called Storyworth. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Well, I just know Tim has sent me over a bunch of questions and wanted me to answer them. I answered a few of them and didn't get to answering them all. I guess I need to pull out that email and see if I can
Yeah.
finish them for him. But God has answered my prayers because I deeply love Holly, Thomas, Nelson, Ingrid, and Hendrix, as I imagine only a mother can. I don't think any mother could love them more than I do. Oh, and this is a picture of Holly, Brian, and Sissy in front of their Christmas tree. That's about the time I probably got to know Holly. So there you go.
That was a good picture.
Yeah. Have you ever missed a flight?
Oh.
Oh my goodness! I remember
Oh.
this. There have been many times that my flights were awry. The first time was in about 1985 when I was single in Kingman, Arizona. I had scheduled a flight to Kentucky for Christmas. Unfortunately, my alarm clock didn't go off the morning,
Oh.
and I was to make the 2 hour drive to the airport in Las Vegas. I woke up about 30 minutes before my plane's departure. I
Mm.
was so panicked that I called the airport and was almost hysterical when I told them I would miss my flight, as if they could do anything about it at that point. I called my parents and mom told me to to schedule another flight. And that she would pay for it. She eventually wrote to the airline and explained the situation, and they refunded half of the cost of the ticket. In 1998, when Grandpa died, I almost got on the wrong plane when I was on my way to Lexington, Kentucky. The arrangements were last minute. The arrangements were last minute, and there was a lot of uh, construction at the Las Vegas airport. When I got to the gate, they quickly hustled people out the door and waved me uh, through without checking my boarding pass onto the tarmac to board a shuttle bus that took us to one of those external steps to board the plane. The shuttle bus was standing room only, and for some reason, I felt uneasy. I asked a couple of people around me, "Where are you going?" They gave me a strange look and said, "Erie, Pennsylvania."
Oh. Oh no.
I made my way to the front and told the driver I was on the wrong bus, headed to the wrong plane. He got on his radio and one of those carts that haul luggage around the airport met us and drove me to the plane going to Lexington, Kentucky, which
Oh.
had already closed its doors and was ready to taxi. I was the last person on board, and everyone gave me a dirty look because they were waiting for me.
Oh my goodness.
The most interesting experience happened at Christmas time in 2006. Ralph, Brian, and I had been vacationing on the Big Island, and on the way home had the connection through Honolulu. Our flight from Honolulu to Phoenix was canceled.
Oh
We
boy.
went several hours in the middle of the night in line waiting for what we thought was a rescheduling of our plane, but they just gave us a motel voucher for that one night and told us we had to call to get a new flight. By that time, many of our other passengers had called to reschedule, and during that busy season, it would be 2 days before we could fly home. We slept at the motel for a few hours before checking out, and we had nowhere else to go. All motels and rental cars were booked solid with no openings. 30 years before, Ralph had been a pastor at St. John's Lutheran Church in uh, uh, Kailua, uh, Oahu.
We don't know.
Oahu.
Oahu.
It's Oahu. Kailua. Hopefully that's right. I advised him to call one of his parishioners, Gloria Larson, and let her know about our dilemma. He was reluctant to do so, but I reminded him that he would be hurt, but that she would reminded him that he would be hurt uh, uh, if she was in Phoenix in a similar situation and didn't call him.
Yeah.
Gloria put in motion circumstances that saved us and gave us the best 2 days of the vacation. Larry Luce, president of the congregation, when Ralph was there, drove to pick us up at the airport and loaned us a car to drive. Another church member, a friend of Gloria, whose family was on the mainland for the holidays, let us sleep at their home for 2 nights. Jay Erkenbrack, Brian's high school friend, was visiting his parents from his home in Japan, and he and Brian went body surfing at Makapu,
Makapu.
their favorite body surfing beach. Ralph and I visited places in Kailua that he remembered when he lived there. He showed me the house where they lived, the school Brian attended, including the high school where he graduated, and the ball field where he played baseball. Ralph took me to Lanikai Beach, where he told me a secret. When working, he drove there daily to have lunch and take a short nap in the car. That night, the three of us took a moonlit stroll on Kailua Beach, one of the most beautiful sand beaches in the world. The following day, which was Sunday, we attended church at St. John and met the congregation there. When they greeted the visitors, Ralph told them that we had felt like Mary and Joseph in Bethlehem, where there was no room for them in the inn. St. John's congregation had taken us in and provided for us when we had nowhere else to go. Ralph and Helen always said, "The good Lord sure smiles on us." And so here is Brian, Sissy, and
Ralph.
Ralph in front of St. John's. Lanikai Beach is where Magnum PI was filmed.
Oh.
And so it looks like we're out of time again today.
What's next? Cliffhanger.
Where did your ancestors come from?
Oh, that'll be a good one.
I wonder if she knew when had she had her Who Is Me test or whatever it is, DNA test whenever that she wrote this or not.
I don't know.
I guess we'll find out. Because
Yes.
I always thought that we were, German and all of this good things, but Indian. So we'll find out next week. Where did we come from?
Where did we come from?
We do this because it talks about the family. There, a lot of you have to deal with children that are stepchildren, and it's very hard to do. Yes, I had a DNA test before writing the book. Okay. So she'll tell us the official heritage. I may disagree with the Indian. The Indians refuse to take the test, so it doesn't. I believe it doesn't show up. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. We'll find out tomorrow about where we came from.
Yes.
If we're aliens or from the outer space or from the moon, wherever
Whoever. Who do you know?
from. And so, but most of you have some of you have stepchildren, and hopefully reading this will help you to understand. It's 5 hours is a long trip, but the state
That's
of
what we do.
the state of Arizona, it could take you 10 hours to drive across the state of Arizona from one border to another. And
Yeah,
if they made
absolutely.
them, we have a thing in Kentucky where they're required to stay in the state without getting permission, and then usually the moving party has to pay for the transportation
Right.
back and forth. It can, you don't realize the amount of time that is spent transporting children. I was blessed with my parents, transporting my children for
Yes.
years. They saw that as their visitation time.
Yes. And it was. It was.
With my children. And so, and I see it as visitation time for me as well. But to somebody who's a step parent or something, that might be arduous, and for the kids it is. I know I transported some children that complained about the trip. It was it was 100 miles to their home, which was a 2 hour trip.
Well, I've got
4 hours
I went
around
and
trip.
got Braden 2 hours away, almost 2 hours.
Yeah,
Several times.
Yeah, it's 3 hours round trip to Braden.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
So I understand
So
that.
a lot of people don't think about the cost on the parents and the step parents of transportation and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
We just do it gladly. We don't think about it, but
Little boogers are worth it.
But when they become teenagers, sometimes we have to do something different, and they did that.
Yeah.
The thrill probably of her flying encouraged her to continue coming, and
Oh,
where a lot
yeah.
of teenagers kind of they don't they kind of give up on
Yeah.
coming sometimes. I've had a couple of children that did that. They tend to kind of want to choose at that point, but
Yeah.
uh, and so you see a lot of things. You see where my mom, you know, I guess she could have held her accountable, but that's the way mom was. Well, mom wasn't the codependent, so for mom to say, and she was frugal about money. She didn't like
Don't
spending
you
money.
worry.
That was really a lot for her to say. Just come on and I'll pay for it. That
She wanted to see her
right.
you come on.
Yeah, I remember that. That's how I got my necklace. Was out of that deal. Dad took me to. He asked me what I wanted for Christmas. They gave her that, which was not fair to her. They gave her the that was her Christmas present. Was
The airplane ticket.
Was the airplane ticket. And so they took me to a jewelry store. Dad, I wanted a necklace, and he bought me a necklace that I have in the safe in there.
Yeah.
I don't wear it because I haven't worn jewelry since my car wreck.
Yeah.
But I remember her telling the story when she got there about getting on the wrong bus, and that she almost missed her flight because she got on the wrong bus. We always went and picked up Sissy at the airport, unless she was. I guess if she was flying, we had to pick her up at Somerset
Mhm.
Airport. She flew to Somerset Airport, and
That's awesome.
there's not a picture there of Grandpa whenever he was 90. How old would he have been? 94 years old, I think. Took his first no, he wasn't that old. Let me back up. It was in 91 or 92, so he was probably like 92 years old. He took his first airplane flight.
With Sissy? Did
With
she
Sissy.
fly?
Yeah, and
Awesome.
they put it in the paper, and there's a picture of all of us lined up there.
I've seen that picture.
Of Dad, Mom, Natalie is in the picture, and
Yeah. What's Sissy say?
with the plane. It's later in the book.
Oh, Tony.
Okay.
He's giving the book away.
Giving the book away, yes. And so, a lot of great memories, a lot of great things that you as a family, you need to learn and to do. She talks about how to deal with people that are hard to deal with there as well. And so.
Well, we always like to explain why, like Mom Baugh's book or Sissy's book, would be a way to a great marriage. Well, it is because she's telling you her life about her marriage experience and her family.
And she talks about how her and Brian met. So if there's
Her and
somebody
Brian
on
met.
here that is single and is wondering how to get involved, how to meet somebody, well,
Church.
Maybe see if your pastor can play matchmaker in his life.
Somebody in church can matchmake you up. That's too funny. That's too funny.
I'll go to your church if you'll match me up with
somebody good.
It's kind of interesting because Kingman, Arizona, probably back in the heydays, they needed to import women in because there was like 10 men to every woman, and then it got to the point where there wasn't that many single bachelors. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it is. See, your book's very interesting, and we love reading it. So.
But now,
and we love you.
Now for the festivities that LaRonda saw before I can tell you. Subscribe not only to our YouTube channel, but also to Rumble.
Who's ready to rumble?
We have hit the 700 mark since our last Waycast. We're at 705 subscribers. I guess it's because we're reading Sissy's book.
Yeah, that's good.
Everybody's subscribing because of Sissy's book.
Read what she said. She said something.
Oh, she did. So glad you like it. Love you too. And then viewers, I think we must have hit the 400,000 viewer mark. 407,500.
Wow! Thank you all.
Likes, thank you for the like tonight. I assume that's Sissy. Follow her example and like, give us a thumbs up. We must have hit the 10,000 like month mark recently. It's 10,800. Comment, ask questions, follow Sissy's example and comment, but also ask questions. We'll be glad to address those on the next Way to a Great Marriage Cast. Or we may even make a whole Way to a Great Marriage Cast based upon your question. And then, so there's 493 comments. So we need 7 more comments to break 500. Then share. We've been telling you to share the Against All Odds Waycast. I've pinned it to the top of the channel so that you can see it. If you go to the channel, that will be the first thing you see. Share that. I think it's a great evangelistic tool. So share it. I'm sure there's somebody that you can think of that doesn't know Jesus as their personal Savior. So share that with them. Pray first of all that they'll be receptive to watching the video in its entirety and to watch it. There's been 3,400 shares. And this last week, we kind of dropped down probably 7,000 for the week, but we're at 151,400 since last night.
That's great.
We haven't had that much views today on the channel. It's kind of, I guess everybody's getting ready for the weekend.
Yeah. School's out.
But with that, then hit the ding-a-ling in your life.
Ding.
For notifications so that you can be notified the next time we're live on the channel so you can come on and harass us in person. We won't belittle you as long as you don't call us names. If you call us names, we'll tell you don't have a brain in your head. But, and so we love you, Sissy.
Love you, Sissy.
We miss you, but this is nice that we can be together this way. I have your book. And so with that, we say
good night, until we meet again. Adios, au revoir, I'll be the same till then.
And though it's always sweet sorrow to part,
You know you'll always remain in my heart. Good night, sleep tight, and that's the means to you. There's a wish and a prayer that every